Okay, part 3. Let's review. The political spectrum is a bimodal distribution with 2 humps, one on the left, one on the right. To win, Kamala Harris has to attract a sufficient amount of support from people in the left hump because she's never going to get the people in the right hump. And this is borne out by decades of research. Conservatives are extremely partisan, and they are extremely loyal, and they do not defect in large numbers. A handful might, most will not. So, to win, you have to get the people in the left hump fired up. You have to get them excited and energized. This is also borne out in research. When voter turnout is high, Democrats win. When voter turnout is low, Republicans win. So the insidious, secret weapon of the right-wing strategy is not pulling people from the left over to their side. Their strategy is to simply make people in the left hump apathetic, to convince them that their vote doesn't matter, or that it doesn't make a difference, or that even if they manage to elect the people they want, that change will not happen regardless. Basically, it's to engineer despair. If they can engineer despair on the left, they suppress voter turnout. When voter turnout is low, they win elections. That's their strategy. So it's important to understand here that the left hump is not just socialists. I'm a socialist. I would be in the left hump if I were American. But the left hump is actually extremely ideologically diverse. It includes centrist liberals. It includes white suburban women who might have voted Republican under other circumstances, but who are voting Democrat now because Roe versus Wade got destroyed, right? The left hump, it's not a perfect bimodal distribution because the left hump is much bigger than the right hump. And the reason for that is that the right hump became more and more extreme with every passing year, until eventually those who couldn't go along with that just sort of drifted away and had nowhere else to go, and now are sort of coalescing over here. And, that's the phenomenon that I mentioned in the first video here. It's called asymmetric polarization. And again, this is borne out by data. There were actual studies on this. The Republicans, over the last 25 years, moved further and further right. The Democrats, for the most part, remained where they were 30 years ago. A couple minor little slips to the left, and sometimes they even went a little bit to the right. That's what asymmetric polarization looks like. One side gets further and further to the extreme, the other just kind of floats where they were in the first place. Now, the reason this matters is that, let's talk about the key mistake that Kamala Harris made, that her campaign made, I should say. And that is embracing an endorsement from Dick Cheney to the degree that she did. Now, obviously, if you get an endorsement like that, you have to acknowledge it. But it should have just been a simple, thank you, Vice President Cheney. I appreciate that, and I'm glad you recognize the threat that Donald Trump represents. And that was it. Otherwise, stay on message. Stay on, these people are weird. We're not going back. And the reason for that is because these people are weird tapped into something that a large part of the voting public felt but couldn't articulate, which is that the Republicans have been conducting a systematic and organized assault on basic human rights for 2.5 decades now. And, they've attacked bodily autonomy. They've attacked basic civil liberties. And now they're attacking the institution of democracy itself. And for most of the people over here, who I remind you are not just socialists, there is a general sentiment of this is too far. And when Harris was saying things like, these people are weird, what she was saying is, I'm drawing a line. This behavior is beyond the pale. It is not acceptable, and it will not find a place, a home in my administration. However, when she embraces Dick Cheney and starts talking about bipartisanship, it sounds like a reversal of that message. It sounds like maybe she's going to let the people who have been conducting a systematic assault on human rights have a bit more influence than you might want them to have. And that's the mistake. That's the critical mistake, because here's the key takeaway, all right? These people over here. Like, let's look at it from the perspective of, let's put on our 1990s New Wave Democrat goggles and look at it that way. If you think of the political spectrum as a normal distribution with one hump, then an endorsement from someone like Dick Cheney looks like a really big win, because it means you're pulling support away from your opponent. But that's not the political spectrum. That's not the world we live in anymore. The political spectrum is two humps, both very polarized. And the people over here in the right-wing hump, they're not going to say to themselves, if Dick Cheney likes Kamala Harris, maybe I'm all wrong about this. Maybe I should give her a chance. They're not going to do that. They are too extreme for that. They're going to say, Dick Cheney is a traitor, and he was never an ally to our movement. And they are going to remain steadfastly loyal to Trump. So by embracing Cheney and, making this centrist pivot, I don't even think you should call it centrist, because it's actually a bit of a right-wing pivot, but moving on. By embracing him in that way, you haven't gained any support over here, but you've lost support over here, because you have allied yourself with someone that people in the left hump associate with all of the conservative overreach that they were objecting to. Dick Cheney, they used to call him Darth Cheney, for God's sake. They associate him with 1 million dead Iraqi civilians. They associate him with warrantless wiretapping. They associate him with the Patriot Act. In other words, the seeds of the assault on basic human rights that the Republicans have been conducting, they associate Cheney with all of that. So when you ally yourself with him, you lose support over here and you gain nothing over here. And that's why her lead has diminished. Okay, good talking to you all. Have a great day.